Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Lazy Hypnotherapist. I am her. I'm the Lazy Hypnotherapist. I am a certified hypnotherapist and a trainer of conversational hypnosis where I teach other practitioners, therapists, how to use conversational hypnosis to amplify their existing practice. And if you are watching this on YouTube, this is my first episode back on YouTube for a while. I have been doing consistent episodes over on Spotify and Apple. So if you want to listen to them, go and listen to them as well. But I haven't been as consistent on YouTube, mainly because I feel like every time I go to record one of these, I am in such a rush in between sessions and I just have to quickly do it. Or more commonly as well, I've just been looking like a mess. So I thought, you know what? Show up whether or not you look like a mess and just do it, because I know a lot of you do actually like to watch these on YouTube. So yeah, we've got it on Apple, we've got it on YouTube, and we've got it on Spotify. So welcome back, YouTubers. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry that I've been gone for so long. Quick PSA. Speaking of YouTube, my free webinar for conversational hypnosis is now on my YouTube channel. So if you want to learn even more about conversational hypnosis, I recently did a webinar where basically I spoke about conversational hypnosis. I spoke about what it is, the basics, how we implement it into your existing practice, how it actually all works, like all the basics, as well as what's included in the course, what post-course looks like, you know, the support, the community, that kind of thing. So if you're wanting to check it out, go and do that. And if you have any questions or anything, let me know. And as always, the link to sign up and start learning is in the description below. So welcome. Having said all that, I am really excited to get into today's topic because it's one that I just recently posted about on my Instagram, and it is the 3 subconscious moments that I listen for in every single session. And it's a big part of what I teach in the course. So I think, I do get asked a lot by potential clients and other practitioners who see my testimonials from clients, and they ask, how do you get these results so rapidly for your clients? What is it that you're doing differently? And of course, I always say, well, I practice conversational hypnosis and we do get really consistent results there. But I'm really focused on saying that it's not necessarily what I'm saying or what I'm doing. It's what I'm listening for. It's the information I'm listening for, and it's what I am utilizing and what I'm giving back to the clients from what they give me that I've listened for. So I am always in every single session looking out for the subconscious moments. In the course, I teach you what subconscious moments are, but also how to spot them and how to use them to facilitate the change for your clients. And that's not to say that, the information, the story that your client is giving you isn't important. It is, but we're really interested in the subconscious information because more than likely the client in front of you has told this story, their experience to multiple different therapists. And at some point it almost feels like a rehearsed story of this is just the story that they have to tell their therapist that, they've told many, many times, and it becomes almost like, disconnected from them. And we want to get into exactly the core of it, the core emotions, the core feelings, the core beliefs that are really running this story and how it's presenting as a problem. So that's really what I'm focused on in sessions, is how can I get to the core of this? How can I get to the subconscious of it all? And I kind of over time just started to realize that there were 3 really important things that I wanted to focus on, or that really stood out for me in sessions, that I started to teach in my course. So the first one is identity statements. And this is a big one, and it is one that comes through in a range of different modalities that they teach you about identity statements, where someone really identifies with something like, I'm just an anxious person, or I'm not a confident person. I've always been the shy one. I've always been the whatever. I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible at setting boundaries. I'm this, I'm that, and it's like a fact. They're not saying it to you in sort of a questioning way or a wondering way. This is a fact about me, and one that you can kind of tell they've believed for a very long time. And I think most of us don't even notice when we say these things. I certainly have had underlying beliefs about myself that I have just sort of carried through for a long time, and had over time just become a part of like my personality of I'm the lazy one. Like, this is a lazy hypnotherapist. How much have I identified with that? And I think we all have aspects of that and statements that we truly identify with that we probably don't recognize are having a really big impact on us. We experience them as facts, but what we know is that they're not facts at all. And these, if we look at, these beliefs as like the building blocks to problems, the building blocks are based on things that are actually just fictional. They're just conclusions that we've come to at one point or another in our life, and we just believed them, or we'd been told them when we were really young, and so we just went, okay, that's me, I guess. It's conclusions that the subconscious mind has made simply based on previous experiences. And once we start treating these conclusions as our identity, as facts, we just look to our world around us to reinforce them and to provide evidence for them that confirms this. And it's so funny, I always think about this, that we look to confirm what we believe. Even if it's something horrible, we want to confirm it because it lines up with how we already feel. It's such an interesting, weird thing that we do, but I guess it makes sense. But we're always looking to reinforce and confirm this thing that we believe. One of my favorite things in sessions is when a client realizes that something that they've believed their whole life to be true is just simply not true. It's like this big shifting moment where they can suddenly see clearly and see things as they are, not as they thought they were or they assumed they were. And once we start to really dismantle these identity statements, the whole sort of problem, the building blocks start to get dismantled because they're not held up by these fictions anymore. So it's such a fascinating thing, and I'm always just keeping my ear out for these identity statements. The second one that I am always listening for, and a big one that I teach my students, and one that I actually love and just find so fascinating, is subconscious payoffs. And subconscious payoffs are basically the benefits that, say, something like anxiety gives our subconscious mind. So your client comes to you with a problem and they're really struggling. Maybe say it's procrastination. What I'm really curious about is how is this, or what is this procrastination doing for them? Because we know that the subconscious mind is only ever trying to help protect us, take us away from pain and help us survive, basically. So when you look at something like procrastination, yes, it is detrimental, absolutely. And it's not executing its plan very well of protection. But when we really look into it, a lot of the time, something like procrastination is protecting someone from failure. People pleasing, that's a big one. It might be trying to protect you from rejection. Perfectionism might protect you from being criticized or feeling out of control. So there's always this subconscious payoff, and we need to get to the subconscious payoff in order to realize how this problem developed. So that I love, because it reframes the problems that we experience as our mind or our brain doing something to us versus trying to do something for us. And, I always describe it as like, I probably said it on the podcast before, as like a kid that's trying to help in the kitchen. Such good intentions, but probably just making a big mess. And we just need to kind of help them out, maybe train them a little bit as to how to actually help based on where we are in life now, not when the subconscious payoff potentially developed, which was probably a lot younger. So it's really interesting to just get really curious about what a behavior is trying to actually achieve. That way we can help the client find another way of meeting that need. I love it. It's such a huge part of what I do. And when your client is able to realize what their mind is trying to do for them, it softens everything. And it really goes on to my third thing that I'm listening for, which is perspective shifts. Again, these are some of my favorites. They're so subtle, so often you miss them. I think, a lot of people think like these breakthrough moments are these big releases and these big like, aha, oh my gosh moments. And they're definitely aha moments, but they're quite subtle most of the time. They could present as, a client just sort of like stopping mid-sentence. Maybe they might just kind of like slow things down, or they might just not respond to you. They might smile or laugh, show some kind of emotion. They might look like surprised, or, a lot of the time it's, oh my gosh, I've never thought about it like that. I've never been able to see it in that way. No one's ever told me that. And it's like, oh, suddenly that makes sense. Those moments in my mind are just gold. Like, they are pure gold. And I am never in a rush to move past them. Like, I'm like, stay there, never rushing to the next question, never rushing to the next moment, because the processing that comes from a perspective shift, it's like you can see them almost just like, it's like they're like downloading a file. And that maybe sounds woo-woo, but it looks like they're just suddenly understanding something that they've never been able to understand. And once that gets accepted by the conscious mind, it sinks into that subconscious. It's so freaking fascinating. And that's where the subconscious just becomes really open to change. And I think, it's not, I think a big misconception about any type of therapy is that change just happens because someone has, new information. Sometimes that's true, but more often change starts to happen because they start to see themselves differently and they start to see the situation differently. The story, that they've spoken to so many therapists starts to just change that little bit. The story sort of, I don't know, it starts to feel a little bit different. Their identity softens and shifts. A lot of the time compassion comes in and they can see this whole thing with so much more compassion to themselves mostly. A belief that they've carried for so long just starts to loosen a little bit. And that's why I spend so much time listening in sessions, because these moments are subtle, but they're so, so important. And they can be so transformative if you simply learn how to notice them and how to utilize them, which isn't anything super fancy or technical or with lots of words. It's usually just very simple, very, very simple, holding them there, encouraging them, maybe asking a specific follow-up question in as little words as possible. I always tell my students, I don't want you to say the fanciest words. You don't have to have the best vocabulary. I want you to use as little amount of words as possible, because that's what the subconscious mind is going to respond to. So I'm less about making sessions, I suppose, seem really technical, and I just want them to seem or to feel really meaningful. When you start to just listen for those subconscious moments, everything really starts to unfold just so beautifully, so naturally, so easily. It's just the best. It's just the best. I love it. I love it. I love it. But yeah, those are the 3 things that I'm really, really listening for in sessions. There are other things that I'm listening for, but those are the 3 main ones that I find really transform sessions the most. Sorry. But that's all, I think, for today's podcast. I want to thank you again so much for joining in and listening. I appreciate you all so much, the listeners. I love coming on here and just chatting about this because I'm so passionate about it and I just bloody love it so much. So thank you. I'll see you next week for the next video. And if you want to watch that webinar, it's on the Lazy Hypnotherapist YouTube channel. Head over there and I hope you enjoy it. Bye.